Grab your phone, open your super app. Actually do it. I'll wait. Now look at that number and be honest with yourself. Is that where you should be at your age? Because ASFA just quietly dropped new numbers, and for the first time since 2023, the target you're meant to be hitting has gone up, not down, up. By 2026, the question changes shape entirely, and I'm about to walk you through every single bracket, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So by the end of this, you'll know exactly where you stand. No guesswork, no vibes, just the actual numbers and exactly what to do about the gap. Here's the trap most of us fall into. You compare your balance to your mate over a beer at the pub and you both go, yeah, nah, we're roughly the same. We're all good. Problem is, your mate might be just as behind as you are. Comparing yourself to the average bloke down the pub tells you precisely nothing, because the average Australian isn't on track either. All you've confirmed is that you're both keeping pace with a group that's collectively falling short. What you actually want is the ASFA benchmark. It works backwards from what a comfortable retirement genuinely costs and spits out a number for exactly where you should sit at exactly your age. And comfortable doesn't mean yachts and Bali every month. It means private health cover, a decent car that isn't held together with cable ties, the aircon running in February without the guilt spiral, and dinner out without doing maths on the menu. There's also a modest tier below that, basically the essentials plus a bit of breathing room. But comfortable is what most blokes actually picture when they think retired and set. ASFA prices that lifestyle at roughly $54,840 a year for a single person and $77,375 for a couple. To fund that from 67 onward, a single person needs around $630,000 in super, and a couple needs $730,000. And here's the bit that should genuinely worry you. Those targets just went uppy for the first time in 3 years. Why? Because the pension hasn't kept pace with what retirees actually spend on. Energy bills, healthcare, insurance. These are climbing faster than the headline inflation number, and they happen to be exactly what retirees spend the bulk of their money on. So even though the pension gets indexed twice a year, its real buying power is quietly shrinking, which means the target below 67 shifts too, for every single age bracket underneath it. This isn't a one-off correction either. Expect these numbers to keep drifting upward as long as pension indexing keeps lagging real living costs. Right, let's go through them. Decade by decade. Early 20s, you're just getting started, and typically your balance is sitting somewhere in the low thousands. By 25, if you want to be tracking toward that $630,000 comfortable target, ASFA reckons you should be sitting around the high 20,000s mark. Most people your age aren't there. That's completely fine. Here's why. This is the one decade where every dollar has 40 plus years to compound. Quick maths, because this genuinely blew my mind the first time I saw it. $1,000 sitting in your super at 25, growing at an average 7% return, becomes roughly $15,000 by the time you're 67, without you adding another cent. That's not a typo. That's just time doing the heavy lifting. Now picture a bloke who waits until he's 35 to put that same $1,000 in. By 67, it's only grown to around $7,500. Same amount of money, same return, half the outcome, purely because he started 10 years later. Nobody in their 40s or 50s gets the deal a 22-year-old gets. It's the single biggest edge you'll ever have, and most 20-somethings have no idea they're sitting on it. Late 20s, and the median balance climbs into the high teens to low 20s. But the ASFA target by 30 sits around $70,000 plus. That's a proper gap for most people. And if you've bounced between 2 or 3 jobs, which, let's be real, most of us have, there's a decent chance you've got multiple super accounts quietly bleeding fees in the background. 2 accounts, 2 sets of admin fees, 2 insurance premiums you probably didn't even know you were paying. It adds up fast and it's dead money. Sorting that out takes about 10 minutes on MyGov. Log in, link the ATO, and it'll show you every account tied to your tax file number, including anything lost or unclaimed. And mate, there is currently almost $19 billion sitting unclaimed across roughly 7.3 million accounts Australia-wide. A big slab of that is just blokes who forgot about a casual job from uni or a fund they never rolled over after a move interstate. Genuinely worth 10 minutes of your life to check. Actually, drop your age bracket in the comments right now, along with how close, or not, you reckon you are to your target. No judgment. We're all figuring this out together. Your early 30s median balances are typically sitting in the mid-30s to mid-70s, depending where in the decade you are. But the ASFA target around 35 is well over $110,000. That's a solid gap for most blokes, even ones on decent income. And this is the decade it tends to widen fastest. A stretch out of the workforce for study, travel, or looking after family, a run of part-time or casual work, a business that doesn't pay itself a wage for a year or two. Any of that quietly stalls your contributions while the target keeps climbing regardless. It compounds just like your returns do, except in the wrong direction. If you're in your 30s and feeling behind, genuinely, you're not the outlier, you're the median. And this is still a very fixable decade because you've got roughly 3 decades of compounding still ahead of you. The gap closes faster than you'd think once you're actually putting in a bit extra. Now, here's something almost nobody clocks, including plenty of financial advisors. Stick around because in a minute I'll tell you the single most common mistake Australians in their 40s make with their money, and it's not what you'd think. Median balances through the 40s typically sit well under $150,000, while the ASFA target by 45 has crept up past $230,000. That's a gap approaching 6 figures for a huge chunk of the country. You're established in your career, probably earning more than you ever have, but between the mortgage, the kids, and just life, super gets shoved to the back burner. And here's that mistake I promised you. Heaps of blokes in their 40s throw every spare dollar at extra mortgage repayments instead of their super. Feels productive. Feels safe. There's real peace of mind in owning the place outright. But mathematically, in most cases, salary sacrificing into super wins long term because contributions are taxed at just 15% instead of your marginal rate, which for a lot of you is 32.5% or higher, and you've still got 2+ decades of compounding ahead. Say you're earning $110,000 and chuck an extra $10,000 a year at the mortgage instead of super. Over 15 years, the super version can end up tens of thousands ahead purely off that tax gap before you even factor in investment growth. Owning your home outright feels good. But dollar for dollar, it's not always the smartest move. Into your 50s, median balances typically sit somewhere between $120,000 and $200,000 depending on the exact bracket, while the ASFA target climbs past $300,000 by 50 and close to $400,000 by 59. Averages look rosier here, but averages are misleading. A small number of very large balances drag that number up. The median tells you what the bloke in the middle actually has, and that bloke is often close to $200,000 short of where he needs to be. This is the decade the concessional cap becomes your best mate. It just rose to $32,500 a year from July 1st, 2026, up from $30,000. With the super guarantee sitting at 12%, if you're earning around $100,000, your employer's already tipping in about $12,000, leaving you roughly $20,000 of headroom to salary sacrifice, taxed at 15% instead of your full marginal rate. And if your total balance is under $500,000, you can also carry forward any unused cap space from the past 5 years, meaning some blokes in this bracket can tip in well over $32,500 in a single year and catch up hard. If you've never touched that headroom, this is genuinely the moment. By your early 60s, medians are typically sitting somewhere in the $160,000 to $220,000 range, while the target has pushed past $500,000. Even solid average balances often leave a 6-figure gap to the $630,000 comfortable mark. And if you're in this bracket feeling the pressure, take a breath. Super is one piece of the puzzle, not the whole picture. These ASFA targets assume you own your home outright and get at least a part pension, both of which dramatically change the equation. Selling the family home and downsizing can also inject a serious lump sum straight into super in the final stretch, if that's ever on the cards for you. Renting in retirement is a different story though. A single renter typically needs closer to $340,000 just for a modest lifestyle, because rent doesn't stop when the wage does. So here's the honest, no-spin takeaway. No matter which bracket you just sat through, the pattern's the same. Most Australians are behind the benchmark, but behind doesn't mean done. The super guarantee is locked at 12%. Payday Super kicked in from 1st July 2026, meaning your employer now pays you every payday instead of once a quarter, which means your money starts compounding sooner instead of sitting on your boss's books for months. And you can now salary sacrifice up to $32,500 a year in concessional contributions, or stack in up to $130,000 non-concessional if you've got the room. If you take one thing away from this, check your balance against your bracket tonight, consolidate any stray accounts on MyGov this week, and if you've got any spare headroom, even a small salary sacrifice starting now beats a bigger one starting in 5 years. Every extra dollar you put in today isn't just a dollar. It's that dollar plus every year of growth between now and the day you clock off for good. If you got something out of this, smash the subscribe button and flick it to someone who needs to hear it. Your mate, who still reckons we're all good, counts as a retirement strategy. Thanks for watching, legends, and I'll catch you in the next one.